Everyone, Alex here. I am a product researcher and have access to many different types of cutting-edge wellness equipment. I've taken a look at water purification whole house systems for the last, 12 years. As you know, there's so many out there. A lot of scams, a lot of BS. I would say probably 90% of the time what is claimed is not really true. But anyways, this one is a really exciting one. Just came to the market. I was fortunate enough to know the main engineer behind it and have special access to bringing it direct to consumers because it is a commercial unit that is used to produce medical grade water and in the last 10 years has been used in a couple thousand surgical centers and dental offices. So why they like it is, one, is because it does not waste any water. There's no electricity required. It does not diminish the flow rate like an RO system, reverse osmosis. And you can actually get better purification than reverse osmosis with this system. When I say medical grade water, that is a standard. So we have NSF and some other standards for human, what's considered high quality, safe, human grade drinking water for consumption. And that has an allowable limit of certain contaminants and of course viruses and bacteria and things like that. Surprisingly, if you actually look up what those standards are, it still allows for a fair amount of bacteria and virus to be in every drop of water. So if you see something like 99.999, you see 3 nines or 4 nines or 2 nines, and it sounds like a lot, but if you actually look up how much bacteria or virus would be in a drop of water, it's actually a fair amount. So if you're immune compromised or have a leaky gut or a lot of different other things, over time you can be toxifying yourself, and the issue, making yourself vulnerable to pathogenic infections, it actually happens mostly with the shower heads. Where there has been a lot of studies showing huge bacterial buildup inside of shower heads that would then need to be sterilized like every couple months, and then that ends up in the lungs and in the bloodstream. So shower and pure shower and bathing is more important than even your drinking water in terms of at least the pathogenic exposure microbe. So I'm going to go into what makes this system very unique, but I just want to share that, again, you need medical grade water for dental offices, surgical centers where you're dealing with open wounds, and you need to irrigate those wounds. So those standards are now actually available to have extremely pure. And again, there are NSF tests and also some independent labs that are behind this. So if you do want to see those, reviewing for yourself, you can actually see that is bringing the bacterial load down to 9 decimal points. So that's 99.999999999, and 7 decimal points of nines for virus. Okay. And then the contaminant levels is bringing down superior than reverse osmosis. Okay, last thing I want to say about reverse osmosis, besides wasting water, is what's not commonly known is that every time you back flush dirty water against the resin, you run the risk of impregnating that resin with bacteria. And some of those bacteria have been shown to actually eat the resin as food. And it can compromise it, and then eventually the back flush, you can end up having bacteria and water get across the membrane or resin and contaminate your drinking water. That's something you don't have to worry about with this system. So the first steps are taking it through these different unique proprietary cartridges. Okay, got a polypropylene gradient filter, which has some scale reduction. And then we also have a proprietary microguard filter and advanced carbon with silver impregnated carbon. And we'll actually dive into some of what's unique about a couple of those. So one thing is that the way that the water moves through the cartridges is actually fed by these kind of like little turbines. So the water actually spirals from the inner and outer in a vortex fashion that does a superior job of making sure that that water touches all of the different layers, basically membrane layers. So I'm going to kind of show you the inner section. So when that water actually spirals first into the core of the cartridge, in the core of the cartridge we have an ultrafiltration, which is at 0.01. That is about as small as you can get, this nano ceramic membrane, and it is proprietary and it is unique. Okay, so if you're wondering, can you find this anywhere else? No, you can't. So that's the first stage that it's actually going through, spiraling through. Let's back up a second. Okay, so that's that right there in the middle. Okay, and then it's actually being moved through the tremendous amount of surface area. So the other thing that it has as it's spiraling out is it's meeting that silver impregnated carbon layer. So when you see carbon block, 99% of the time, not every time, but almost every time, that water purification system, other brands, they don't put any silver in their carbon block. So over time, the water will flow and form rivulets and channels, so it won't even be touching the full surface area of the carbon. So you actually have water going through a lot of carbon blocks and not even really touching the surface area, a lot of it. So the carbon can't really do its full job. And carbon is an amazing thing to use, but again, because of the way that carbon blocks are designed, they don't really get the water to go into the full surface area exposure. And then because they form rivulets and channels in a lot of carbon block, it can start to form bacteria inside the carbon block. It's very common. So you have to have silver impregnation. Companies don't do that simply because it costs extra money. And that is again something that's rare to find, and that is what this unit does have, though, just to be clear. Okay, so the interesting thing about these different sorts of layers, these are dedicated to removing all sorts of different types of contaminants and certain heavy metals and things like that. Okay, but each of these have different catalytic elements, and again, that are designed for removal of certain things. So one thing to note is that the different catalytic elements on the surface, okay, that are wrapped in here, they are all on a nano scale, okay, and that is something very unique. And what that means is that one of these layers might be the equivalent to a couple thousand football fields versus of surface area. So if you don't know this, but when you take elements, particles, molecules, whatever, down to a smaller surface area, or to a smaller amount, like say nanoscale, you greatly increase the surface area activity. So yes, it's an unfathomable amount of surface area that can actually end up being wrapped in here. So because of that, that's really why you can just remove so much stuff beyond any other filter, because again, of the nanomaterial. So nano meaning the catalytic elements in here are on a nanoscale. So it's a huge surface area. So just imagine like water running across that vast amount of surface area that has certain elements that grab certain aspects in that water. Now, the other thing too is these membrane layers, they are thoughtfully layered. So they're layered, and some of these catalytic elements have certain, let's just say, electromagnetic properties when they're next to one another. So they actually can amplify one another and cause a static charge differential, which further helps to cause certain elements in the water to precipitate out and then to become more vulnerable or able to be attracted to other layers. It's a little complicated to explain, but there is also something here with regards to the status, using static charges and to alter the kind of the zeta potential and all kinds of interesting things with the particulate in water, so that it can be more easily grabbed onto and filtered out. So again, the way that the water is feeding through these layers also is ensuring the way that it's spiraling out, that it's moving across all of the surface area gradient. And that's again another reason why it's just so effective. So from the outside, it looks like a bunch of cartridges and cylindrical tubes, and you think that might be similar looking on the outside to other systems, but it is in fact extremely different on the inside. Everything I'm explaining, by the way, is proprietary. You will not find it anywhere else. The second little attachment here, let me back up. So it comes in a couple different designs. The water flows in here through your system. There's no electricity, it's solid state, and it comes out here pure and enters your home. If you do not want this sort of design going horizontally, there is a more vertical design, depending on where it would be located. Let's see if I can zoom in here a little bit. So there's a polarization sort of system here that alters the way that hard minerals alters their actual structure or property. So like you might take like calcium, for example, if you have high calcium, and it actually will alter it into aragonite. Okay, so this was designed, these sort of units. Let me see if I can get a better picture here. Where's my picture? There it is. So these sorts of units were invented by the military a long time ago, 50s, 60s, because they basically needed something that was an alternative to a softening system for several reasons, really. So as you are changing certain heavier minerals, you're changing their structure so they don't form certain cationic bonds and scale up your appliances and your body. They don't scale things up. You change their kind of like their electromagnetic function, their structure, so they don't bond the same. Okay, and so it's going to pass those minerals and turn it into aragonite as it passes through. It's a little bit complicated to explain how it's doing that, because we have to get into like physics a little bit, chemistry. But these have been around a while. You still won't see them quite often. I don't know why, with whole house systems and things like that. But they work. They alter minerals and prevent scaling to about 84% roughly. And then we actually can soften, quote unquote, and continue to change the properties of the water through the tremendous surface area as well. There's just so much surface area here. This also does a fairly good job of just overall softening the water past that 84%. And then finally, on the last piece here, it doesn't look like anything, obviously, from the outside. The company will be showing an internal diagram soon and uploading it to the website. But basically, this is the structuring unit, which further does an excellent job also of altering minerals as well. It's a little bit to explain. I could probably do a separate video on it. But by the time it comes on the end of this, I mean, suffice to say, we're probably pretty close to 100% in terms of that water being pretty soft. The structuring component is, just like purifying is extremely important, structuring is also kind of almost, in a way, equally or more important when it comes to hydration. Okay, so just because you're drinking pure water doesn't mean really, honestly, that it's technically that good for you from a health perspective of will this help you hydrate, which is one of the most important things for health. It's just, obviously, right? So structuring, look up that term, Google it. What is structured water? But you're basically altering hydrogen bonds and how water molecules are bonding together, basically. And you're starting to form crystal structures that are smaller in size and basically more easy to be transported across the cell membrane, across aquaporin channels in your membrane of cells, long story short. So your cells don't have to go through as much work to prepare and change that water before it hydrates with it. In other words, go from extracellular to intracellular. Now this unit right here is all metal. There's some precious elements on the inside, and it is actually designed by one of the biggest contributors to the field of structured water devices, somebody that's been behind most of the company's products that you see out there. In fact, many companies have basically taken his information as well and kind of ripped him off and not given him any credit. We work with one of the original biggest contributors to water structuring, and our unit is backed up by the largest amount of validated data for all kinds of applications, industrial, agriculture, and beyond. So if you want more information on that, I can provide it, but there's a lot going on in here. The science on something like this is actually extremely advanced. Doesn't look like much from the outside. But in terms of what it's doing to the water on the inside is pretty complex. There is world water conferences that happen every year. You can look up World Water Conference on YouTube, Bulgaria, and if you just listen to some of those lectures, you'll see that it's actually an extremely advanced science when you're dealing with water. It's not simple at all. So there's a lot that actually takes place in here. So people notice usually the first week, hair, skin, nails, everything is super soft, easier to manage, but that's something immediately noticeable. You'll be going to the bathroom less, literally you'll be peeing less. That's another thing people notice, because they're hydrating better. We can take hydration with everything combined upwards of 35%, possibly even more than that, as far as the water you hydrate off of. Most people, what they're drinking, they'll hydrate maybe off 4 or 5%, just in terms of contrast, including all this really nice, high-quality water that you find, sold in bottles and things like that on shelves. So hydration is really, really important, and you'll see a lot of health benefits from that. So is there anything else wanted to say about this? If you do reach out and you go to the website, you can always mention my name to get $400 off. Or if you just want to contact me directly. We do payments for this over 6 to 12 months as well. Retails for $5,900. As far as for what it's doing, I mean, it's grossly underpriced. It's comparative to commercial systems that are $15,000, to be honest, to get it to this quality, this grade. And even those systems, they don't actually have a structure element to it. So it's a pretty good price. And then if you want another $400 off, you can just contact me directly, email me, or mention my name. And if you have any further questions, or you want to see some of the lab reports or anything like that, just let me know. I'm really excited about this system. It's like finally, after all this time, I feel like there's absolutely zero compromises with something like this. And by the way, the installation is 15 minutes for a plumber. Very easy to do. It is commercial grade. It will last forever as long as you don't take a hammer to it. You got to change out the cartridges every 6 months or every 12 months. Just depends. If you have a well, if you have a salt intrusion, this cannot help you. You need a different unit before you have to process, before you get through this. If you need to know what that is, contact me. Otherwise, if you just have well water of varying qualities or city water or whatever, this will do perfectly for you. If you do have well water, send us that report, and we can advise you. If it's really, really, really heavy, mineral, things like that, we can advise you if you're going to have to replace the cartridges in 6 months versus 12 months. Replacement for cartridges is $200 to $300, okay, for the year, which is a great value. Anyways, thanks for watching.